Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business in life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and that's the goal of this show. And we created this show for you because we want everyone to learn how to do business and also life to make an impact in the world. I want you to think about, as you're listening to our great show today, how you will serve today and what impact you'll make today. And speaking of impact, I think employees are your most important asset, or one of them, in your business. And this person that I'm going to bring on today has an impact like crazy. This tool is so powerful, it will be a game changer for your business. Small, medium, or large, doesn't matter. Goes across all levels. Noah, welcome to the show.
Steve, thank you so much for having me.
I could have kept talking, but I'm not, because I want to hear from you. Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. So let's talk about, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we've talked before, and
yeah,
there's a natural synergy between people you enjoy talking with versus people you talk with. And I've had a very good time getting to know you over the last several months of sharing information and sharing concepts and ideas and introductions. And I'm very much looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, this is great, because what's interesting is employees kind of get the backside sometimes. You've talked with business, we said that. Your assessment tool, let's just get into it, helps with that. And how does it help?
Yeah, I mean, when we started spitballing about how my co-founder Derek Hedges and I, in 2014, started just batting around ideas in terms of making the workplace a better place to work. It's not that crazy of a concept. Implementation's a little different. I mean, if you speak with any owner of a company and say, would you rather have your people happier coming to work? If the owners say, no, I don't want them to be happy, that is an extreme outlier. I haven't run into one yet. And so we landed on this spot that is a constant pain point with a lot of organization, and that's the performance evaluation, the talent assessment, the dreaded annual review. And we started doing research on it, and we realized that it is a pain point in most organizations. It is not a productive exercise in most organizations. It's an anxiety creating exercise in most organizations.
Yeah.
So if you look at all of those elements and you keep doing those annual reviews, because, and most of the reasons organizations keep doing it is because they've always done it that way. First of all, in 2014, and certainly in 2024, if you're adhering to any business model because you've always done it that way, you're probably not going to succeed as well as you could. You most likely will fail, but you certainly will not achieve the levels of success you can. So we created the Ripple, and Ripple is a ongoing, timely feedback mechanism that gathers data, objective data from your people, for your people, and allows and empowers managers and leaders to use that data in an effective way throughout the year. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the annual review is broken because of the two words that comprise the phrase: annual, meaning you're only doing it once a year, every 12 months, and review, you're reviewing. It's in the back, it's in the rear view mirror. It's what happened. Today, you need to be about today, tomorrow, next quarter, next year. You want to build a business that looks to the future. And the annual review is this archaic concept that was created back in the 40s, and it gave everybody their 20 minutes with their boss every year. And if you meet with your boss 20 minutes a year, you're being fairly unproductive the other 11 months, 29 days. And we're trying to get away from that. And we've created a technology-driven solution, easy to use, cuts back on the time allocated for conducting the annual review. And we're working across all industries and helping organizations better realize the importance, as you mentioned, of people, their strongest, most valuable, usually asset.
And they're the hardest asset to deal with because they are human. So it's the flip side of that, right? What's the benefit that you see for a company going just not annual, but maybe a quarterly review, maybe it's a weekly, whatever they decide? What do you see a benefit?
All right. So there's science behind what we do. Having been involved with several businesses over the years, annual reviews are basically shooting from the hip. If I tell Steve in our annual review, anything meaningful, it's based on the last 5 to 6 weeks. The human brain only remembers things accurately for less than 2 months. And so what we've done is our frequency, our go-to strategy frequency is monthly surveys, because it falls outside of that 5 to 6 week window. And so you're actually gathering meaningful, genuine data. If you do it quarterly, it's obviously better than doing it annually. If you do it every 6 months, that's better than doing it annually, but you still fall into that gap where the brain doesn't realize or appreciate things accurately outside of that 6 week window. And so what we do is we work with companies, and it's really, I was sharing some information with a few gentlemen I met yesterday at a seminar in Boston, and we get feedback from our clients, and we got an email from a recent adopter. They started in October of 2023. And the email in sum and substance says, "Thank you so much. We used objective information to make meaningful personnel change because we could tell certain things weren't working. And we needed the guidance. We needed almost the outside third party platform to confirm that these changes needed to be made." And they made them. And I got on the phone with the client, and I said, "Listen, I love testimonials, but as we all know, usually testimonials are gathered by, hey, would you mind giving a testimonial? Would love to have it talk about this, this, and this. Use your own words, obviously. But this was an unsolicited, just banging it home testimonial about how important the process that we engage in is." And it was just kind of, everyone loves to be validated in their business operations. And that did it for me. So I shared with these two people I was speaking with yesterday, and they're like, send us the quote. We want to use it when we're talking about your company with other potential clientele. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. So what happens? What's the challenges for companies when they get this data?
Right. So if I could if I could promise every organization that you're going to love the data, it would be an easy sail. Right? Sail meaning sailing through the water, no problem, no turbulence. The barrier to entry often is giving new clients the heads up that, listen, some of the information you're going to love, some of it's going to be validated, some of it's going to say, okay, I kind of figured Steve was this, or no, it was that. But there are going to be some surprises, and there's going to be some data that will be a little shocking, a little, the term is used a lot, disruptive, but sometimes data is disruptive. And that does not mean to act on it. You get your data back tomorrow, that you act on it the next day. What it means is gather data. We are an organic process. We are a process whereby you gather data through in January and in July. So if people act differently, seasonal mood disorders is a real thing. If people act differently in the winter versus the summer, if people act differently during, a quarter that's heavy on sales versus a quarter that's heavy on marketing, we gather it so it's cumulative. And we tell managers, leaders, owners, don't knee-jerk react. Find out the information, track it over time, and then make decisions. And our biggest hurdle when it comes to data is showing people that think that, Rob, their SVP of sales, is one thing, and the people that work for Rob give him information that suggests that maybe Rob isn't who you thought he was as a leader. Doesn't mean can Rob tomorrow. It means have meaningful discussions with Rob to find out and to go through this data to realize that the data is important to act on. And that action may be finding out that Rob has a lot of people that don't work very hard, and they resent Rob because he works hard. Or conversely, it could be that Rob's a bit of a tyrant and his people don't like working for him, or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But you can't act on information if you don't have the information to act on. And that's what we do. We empower these companies with information that they can use to facilitate development of goals that are achievable. And I know we've been in business long enough, you and I collectively, to know that, goals are great if they're attainable. If you create goals that are not attainable or reasonably attainable, they're just frustrations, disappointments that are going to happen eventually, and then you're all going to be annoyed. Your people, your managers, your owners, your leaders. So be cognizant that data changes over time, and track it. And
Yeah.
I mean, we could go in, I could do 3 episodes of this with you regarding the realities of generational workforce attitudes. So when you have a boomer teaching a Gen Xer who then tries to teach a millennial, who then tries to teach a Gen Zer, the anticipations, the expectations of all of those workforce representatives are completely different than the generation above them. So you have to be creative. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is acting on the psychology of the workplace. It's science.
Yeah.
It's not just me creating questions in these surveys that I think are important. We work with our IO psychologist, Dr. Frank Shipper. He's great. We vet all of our questions through him, and we've had a great working relationship with him for years. So, the data can be disappointing, but it's always actionable, and the data
Yeah.
can be great. And we always tell our people, our clients, if the data is bad, do something about it. If the data is good, celebrate it. Figure out why it's good, how your people are acting to make it so great, and celebrate it and replicate it.
Yeah.
And even on a team by team basis, if you have team A that's great, team B that's not so great, and team C that's really not good at all, take the information you learn from team A and see if it's applicable to team C, because it might be, or elements of it could be applicable to team C. Team C doesn't want to be a bad team.
Yeah.
All teams want to succeed. So help them do that.
Yeah. And what I love what you're doing, because this is complex. We know that, but you offer that guidance too. It's not like, hey, Steve, here's your plumbing company of 100 employees. Here's the assessment. Good luck. You walk me through it and go A, B, and C, B, like you just did. I think that's important.
Yeah, and it's also important to know that we were in the development game. We were in the coaching game years ago. The old adage, do what you do well,
Yeah.
is very important to how we've developed as a company. We had a licensing agreement with a company a non-for-profit leadership development company, and people just weren't clicking into the content because people want to learn from people. And so what we've done is we've built a network of strategic partners who are developmental coaches, professional coaches, who I can talk 20,000, 30,000 foot view with any of our clients about the data. But if there's heavy lifting involved, we introduce our clients to multiple coaches and they pick. We don't have we have no revenue share component to that. It's purely offering resources to our clientele that can help them get their arms around the data and build initiatives around, data that might not be so great, to turn it into data that can help them succeed as an organization.
Yeah. And it's important to get the employees these assessments, have them take it. But what's the biggest challenge? What's some of the challenges for a company to go to their employee base and go, hey, here's an assessment we take to help build our company, to help the company. How do they go about doing that?
Okay, so I mean, there's a lot wrapped up in that question,
Yeah.
right? At the heart of your question is, how do you drive engagement, right? How do you get your employees to do anything? How do you get your employees to appreciate the fact that you want them to do something because it's going to be productive, to achieve a goal, to increase productivity, which at the end of the day increases profitability. And if we're more profitable as a company, as an employee, you're going to share in that reality. And you want to talk about engagement. We're a data analytics company. I've got engagement statistics, the Gallup driven statistics that, I'm not shocked because I've been tracking the data over the last 6, 7, 8 years, but some of the data is truly shocking. I mean, domestic companies currently have 31% of their employees who are engaged.
Wow.
So that means 70%, give or take, are not engaged. The quiet quitting phenomenon that was born out of COVID. We're both old enough. We've known clock punchers our entire professional lives. Whatever you want to call them, quiet quitters, clock punchers, slouchers. They live for their paycheck. They do the bare minimum. They get by. Engagement is such a critical component to all organizations, nonprofit, for profit, government, higher education. If you have 30% of your students engaged, how can you assess how well you're doing as a teacher? You know,
Yeah.
if you have 30% of anybody under your leadership engaged, how can you assess how well you're a leader? You really can't. And one of the pain points we run into is, you know, with a new client, showing them that 35% of their employees actually completed the surveys. So the data we've collected is largely, you know, unactionable because you can't do anything with 35-40% of your
Yeah.
people's opinions. You need to know 80-85%. And one last thing on engagement. Well, not one last thing. There's a thousand things we can
Yeah.
talk about. Disengagement. So engagement's important. Disengagement costs domestic companies $550 billion a year.
A year.
A year. A year. 8.8 disengagement costs international organizations $8.8 trillion a year. To put it in perspective, corporate theft, people stealing Post-its, boxes of pens, reams of paper, every now and then a laptop, you know, a wireless mouse, whatever they're stealing. That amounts annually domestically to about 22 billion. Now remember, disengagement costs 550 billion, corporate theft costs 22 billion. 1/32 of what disengagement costs. And you think about the measures that organizations take to protect themselves from corporate theft. You got video cameras, eyes in the sky. You've got security cards to scan through before you get on the elevator. You have internet and computer usage software that shows that Steve's actually on his computer 2 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day. Not saying that's true, hypothetical. But you have all of these measures that you implement to safeguard against corporate theft, which is 1/32 of the amount of loss you incur as an organization through disengagement. So drive engagement. Use Ripple. Would absolutely love every company to use Ripple, but if you're not using Ripple, there's plenty of companies out there, and as you know me, Steve, well enough, I'm about the bigger picture. Obviously, I'd love every listener of this interview to email me tomorrow. But if you're not using something to actively drive engagement, and then using the feedback that you get through that engagement, which is as if not more important than the process of gathering the information. If you're not using an engagement mechanism, look into it. It's not, these aren't blips. These aren't 0.2%. These aren't, 1.1% numbers. Engaged employees are 23% more profitable. Engaged employees are 18% more productive. Engaged employees are 81% less likely to call in absent. If I talk to a CFO and I use those three stats, I have 1,000 of them, but if I use those three stats and I don't get a raised eyebrow saying, okay, tell me more, let's figure out how we can implement something, then you're on the call for purposes of filling up your sales calendar. And which, there's a lot of people that do that.
Yep.
But engagement is such a critical, especially with the younger generational workforces. They don't want it. My generation, Gen X, the boomers don't, a lot of them don't get it. They think people, feedback's overrated, do your job. I write your checks. You should do whatever I want you to do, no matter how I tell you to do it. My generation, our generation, I believe, we've come around to the point where we understand. I mean, even if we don't necessarily, we weren't raised on engagement. If I share those numbers with my colleagues about the importance of engagement, we're in, because we're all about the ROI. And then if you talk about millennials and Gen Zers, they don't want engagement. They expect it. They don't want feedback. They expect it. This is the generation of Instagram, of TikTok, of Snapchat. They don't want to see a picture of you at the Grand Canyon from 2 months ago. They want to see you 2 minutes ago. They want to see you now. And they want to know if they did a good job in a professional setting now. If you tell somebody in a December annual review, if you tell a 28-year-old that they did something wrong in March, earlier that year in March, they will look at you cross-eyed and they will not be working for you in the next month, because they don't appreciate that. They don't respect it. And we're trying to help organizations get around that. And there are a lot of upsides, as I just shared with the statistics.
Yeah. Respect comes to culture too. That's,
Mm.
as I'm listening to you, this changes the whole culture, which is people and the culture are a lifeblood of a business. You have a bad culture, your chances are reduced tremendously.
The word retention exists for one reason. It exists to retain good people. I've been involved with enough organizations. I have never received a 2 week notice from an employee that was not a positive influence, or someone that I wanted to keep. Right? You never get letters of resignation
Yep.
from the clock punchers, the people that every 2 weeks they get their check and, oh, I still got a job, great, perfect. I'm going to lay low. I'm going to be in my cubicle. I'm not going to make any noise. Everything's all good. The people that come into your office and say, hey, I just want to let you know I took another job at a firm down the street, or a company, in Florida, or wherever the new employer may be. You never get those resignations from people that you can be okay with losing. You get those letters from people that you're like, wait a second, how can we keep you? And you're in constant defense mode. So what we want to do, and what we strive to do, and what we're doing with our current clients, is we're driving up rates of retention. Keep the good people. The good people are your assets. And we believe that employees fall into 3 categories. You have assets, the ones we just talked about, the rock stars, the people you need to grow, to succeed. You have resources, which are not as important as assets, but you need people to do the work.
Yeah.
And then you have liabilities. And if you can get rid of the liabilities, open the door for them, tell them good luck, and let them leave. It's very difficult to get rid of the liability employees.
Yeah, and it running to the end of the time, and we definitely have to do part two. So look for part
Yes.
two next month or two. What's interesting too, it also qualifies the bad employees. So let's real quick, we do an assessment. And by the way, is the assessment anonymous? So when the
Yes.
CEO, okay, because that's my, and
It's the data. It's not the person giving it. It's the
it's the
cumulative data.
data. Yeah.
Yep. It's the data.
So
And,
you
and,
can
and by the way, one quick point, which
go
I
ahead.
know we're running out of time. 48% of domestic organizations have realized that the concept of productivity and engagement are very much tied. So we're on the right path. There's a recognition and an acknowledgement that these two things are not, they can work together.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just be the P&L assessment of your person. How much money do they make me? Because if I made you 3x what I made you last year, but 10 people quit because they can't work with me, and Steve made you 2x what he made you last year, and his team is rocking and rolling, and they've been together for 7 years, and they're a smoothly running machine. Steve's the much better employee. But as a P&L assessment, Noah's the better employee because he made you more money short term.
That is where numbers fail. Big
Yep.
time. I appreciate you saying that. We're going to bring you back. We've run out of time. Hey, Noah, thank you for being on. This
Thanks for having me on.
was incredible. Audience, I'm going to bring this back up. 550 billion a year is lost from disengagement. Internationally, it's 8.38 trillion dollars. I want you to think about those numbers. I know they're huge numbers, but are you part of that? Here's an answer.
The 8.8 trillion, by the way, is 9% of the domestic gross domestic product.
Wow. Well,
I mean, it's a staggering number.
Well, and what happens is people too good to be true. Does it really work? Just seek on those numbers as you do. No, how can they get a hold of you to ask you more because they heard these numbers?
Absolutely. So my website's right next to me, ripplefeedback.com. There's a sign up for free. You can try it out. I'll get in touch with you, sign up a few colleagues, try it out. And you'll see that it's easy, it's quick, it's effective. You can also email me at Noah, Noah, at Ripple, RIPPLE, crew.com. We're in the midst of changing over our email to our new domain. But yeah, would love to hear from any and everybody about how we can help you.
Don't be part of the 550 billion. Get
It's
away from
exactly
that
right.
and make some money. I thank you for listening. As I always say, and this is particular on this show, listen to the show. It's only 24 minutes, 25 minutes. Listen to it again. because you know what, or move fast forward, because there's tips here that Noah gave you, especially if you're a business owner or a manager or a director, that could save you thousands and maybe millions of dollars and have a
Certainly
better
tens of
business,
thousands.
right?
Certainly tens of thousands. Yep.
Absolutely. So don't forget also my TV show, which is Fridays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Every Friday together we serve. Don't forget our swag for podcast. Doing business with a servant's heart swag is available. The link is in the show notes. And I look forward to having you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. You all have a great day.